Hi guys, it's Steph from IDRIVEACLASSIC, and today I'm back in another Mercedes, but this time we've gone from the world of Luton vans, which were popular with tradesmen, and we're in something a little bit special. We're in a Mercedes Benz 190E, and I'm really excited to show you it today because already it's captured my imagination. It's blue inside, there's loads of special little details I can't wait to show you, and in my opinion, it's an incredible car. Now, you may notice as we look around the outside today that it's not exactly concourse, and this is exactly why I picked it, because my friend Lee gave me a call and he said, Steph, I've bought this amazing car for less than £200. Do you want to come and see it and film it for the channel? And I said, yeah, go on then. We're filming it today. It's not exactly concourse, but in my opinion, it's a great car. It's amazing for £200, and I just wanted to show you guys. So as always, we're going to start by looking around the outside. We'll come inside, I'll talk you through the dash and show you some of the details that for me make this car really special. Of course, we'll have a look under the bonnet and we'll go out for a drive as well. So stay tuned because we're off to have a look at this Mercedes Benz 190E.
This is exciting. We've got a Mercedes 190E to test today, but you might notice the Baby Benz or the W201 because that was the project code for the car. But this amazing car began production all the way back in November 1982. Now, the car wasn't like many cars of the 70s and 80s, rushed through or the result of people not knowing what's coming next. It was actually well thought of, and it was the result of several different outside factors. So the market had changed dramatically in the 70s, with everything from the 1973 energy crisis to the success of the BMW 02 and 3 Series models, which meant that the Mercedes team had to go back to the drawing board to come up with a strong competitor and steal back that market share. Now, the idea of a smaller car wasn't something they thought about just because of that. They'd actually been playing around with it for a number of years, but the time hadn't been right. And by the time the car came to development in 1977, so that was when they started thinking about it, Mercedes knew that they wanted to offer the customer something different, but they also had in mind what they wanted to offer as well, which I found through testing cars is usually the first step to a really successful, well thought of car even today. So the car was designed by Bruno Sacco, sorry if I've pronounced that incorrectly, who brought something new to the range with the 190E. The car was designed to look modern and break with the traditional Mercedes look of old and embrace that square-cut modern design that you see before us today. And in my opinion, I don't think it looks massively dated today. Now, as I keep mentioning in this video all the way through, this car excels on the small details you probably won't notice. So if you're just walking past it in a car park, there are certain things that you're just not going to grasp unless you're behind the wheel or digging a little bit deeper. So first of all, the body has been designed with a low drag coefficient of just 0.33. So for you casual observers, this is really important because it not only helps reduce fuel consumption, but it meant that the car met the corporate average fuel economy requirements in the US, something which was really crucial to the car's success with the American car buyer. Fuel economy wasn't the only concern, and in a decade where many manufacturers were still churning out cars without rear seat belts, British Leyland, I'm looking at you, Mercedes made crash safety not only a consideration, but a real concern, and the car was designed with a deformable crash cell and specifically designed door locks and seatbelt tensioners, which became standard in 1984, and ABS and also driver's airbags were available. So there's a lot going on, and in later models, actually, something worth noting, the ABS became standard, but I did a little bit of digging and couldn't find an exact date for that. Now, the car was also designed with lightweight, high-strength steel, which meant that it could withstand a concrete barrier, I think, at 35 miles per hour, and that was tested to basically see what would happen, and they went out with the promise that it meant that if you did hit it like that, it wouldn't seriously hurt those inside the car or see massive deformation to the actual car itself, which was a big thing because safety features like this in 2020 seem less than the bare minimum, but in the early 80s that was fantastic. And I think that whilst car design maybe hasn't come on as far as we think it has sometimes, the safety side of things has come on enormously. Now, also worth noting, the car was put to market with the 5-link rear suspension, which was so successful and well thought of, it was then used in the E and C class models. So something that people always ask me is, who was the car designed for? Well, the car was obviously pitched up to come against the BMW customers and steal some of their market share, but it also catered for customers with different considerations. It was aimed at the Mercedes driver looking to downsize from their current model, and also, really crucially, an aspiring customer, one who'd longed to own a Mercedes but had never quite managed it, which is a really, really clever thing to do, because the customer who may not be able to manage it today might be at a certain point in their career and moving up. So it's almost grabbing those customers while they're still a little bit fluid, getting them into Mercedes and hooking them in for life. So actually, really, really good business sense. But how does it compare to the competition? Because that's really important too. Well, the stats on this car in particular are really good at first glance. You've got a max speed of 115 miles per hour on this 1.8 manual and 0 to 60 in 12.7 seconds, which held up against the BMW 318i doing 116 miles per hour top speed and 0 to 60 in 10.3 seconds. So whilst it's not top of the class, it's definitely a competitor. But as I said, and I've said a million times throughout this video, it's not these two vital stats you need to be looking at. It's all the added extras. It's the experience. And when we go through the dash, you'll see there's quite a lot as well, which really, to me, makes this a better choice, which is probably a controversial thing to say for some people. Now, considering all the years of production combined, this rear-wheel drive executive car offered the buying public quite a few options. So I'm going to slow down for this bit. And you've got a choice of various Mercedes engines that you as the buyer might have recognised. So you got, I'm going to take a deep breath, the 1.8, the 2 litre and the 2.3 litre M102 8-valve engine, the 2.3 and 2.5 litre M102 16-valve engine, and the 2.6 and 3.2 litre M103 engine for the petrol customer. Now, if you were a diesel buyer, you got a choice of the 2 litre and 2.2 litre OM601 engine, the 2.5 OM602 engine, and the 2.5 litre OM602 turbo diesel. Now, for people that like reading about engines, and I know plenty of you do, go onto the internet and have a little read about the Cosworth engine development and the involvement with the 190, because it's worth the extra reading, but realistically it deserves its own video because there is so much into that. So I won't be talking about that today for fear of not being able to do it justice, but if you want a little bit of reading after this, that's definitely where I'd start. Now, transmission-wise, you can choose from a 4 or 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic. Although I've been told by my friend Rob that the automatic 190E is not as much fun as the manual. Now, all 190Es were 4-door models, and the car was made from 1982 to 1993 and saw a production run of over 1.8 million cars, which were made in plants in Germany, Poland and Thailand. Now, drilling down into that, of the 1.8 190Es we've tested here today, they were made from 1990 to 1993, and just over 173,000 were made. Now that we've talked a little bit about the car, I wanted to hop in the driver's seat and talk to you about the dash setup, because for me, this is where the car really shines and I absolutely adore it. And I'm sure you could agree with me, because for £180, this car is fantastic.
I'm so excited to show the inside of this car because I didn't really know what to expect today, because for me, Mercedes isn't something I've explored hugely, and by showing you the side of the car, we're discovering it together. As we start over by the door, a little bit like when we took that Nissan Bluebird out last year, everything is very, very blue. And for me, it's so much more exciting than those boring grey dashboards that we see as we come into the 90s of moulded grey plastic. In this, it still feels, yeah, it's a posh car, but also it's very fun. Now, as we start on, as always, on the passenger side, working through to what's in front of me as the driver, these door cards are absolutely gorgeous. They seem to be many different shades of blue. And the nicest thing about this car, and especially for the price it cost, is in what nice condition it is. And it's a real testament to the quality of Mercedes as we look around this car, just how well it has lasted, because it's been a long time since 1991. Now, as we come round, we go into the glove box. So as we open that glove box, you can see we've got 2 cup holders and a myriad of different items which Lee and Hayley are using to go about their daily life. Now, as we come into the centre of the car, this is where we start to see some of those special details that I've talked about. Now, of course, you've got your air vents over here, which are just as you'd expect them, with the alarm above as well. And of course, your heated screen. But as we come down to the centre, this is where it starts to get interesting. So this is exactly what you'd expect, just your fan speed. But what's this? We've got 2 heater dials. Now, if you drive a modern car, this probably looks pretty standard for you, but back in the day, this was a really nice thing to have. Now, this is the bit that I'm not entirely keen on. I would have had it as a pull-out feature, not a pull-down. We've got our ashtray and concealed cigar lighter. So I'll pop that back in. As you can see, for me, that's a little bit stiff. So you've got your hazard light here. So you see this toggle here? This actually moves. So really weirdly, the driver's side mirror is manual move, and it's got this little clip here, which I'm showing you. So this little toggle actually moves the passenger wing mirror. And you've got an armrest, which is fantastic. You guys know how much I love a few armrests. Now, as we pull that up, you can see that tucks away nicely. Now we come to what's in front of the driver. So at the moment the fuel gauge isn't working, which you'll probably notice when we're driving. 3 dials in front of you. So on your left hand it's split into a third. You've got your temperature, your fuel and your oil pressure. And then as we come into the centre, you've got miles per hour, you've got your speedo, and of course you've got a trip clock, which is vital to every fantastic journey we're planning in this car. And over here on the right, you've got a rev counter and a clock. Now, you may also notice that the clock isn't working either. It's not telling the right time, but look, as we've discussed, it is a work in progress. Now, as we come into the centre here, we've got a selection of warning lights. So I'll just pop that key on so you can see a couple of those light up. But for me, I actually quite like that detail that they're all tucked away. Now, as we move over, you'll notice another little toggle here with a light on. So I'm actually going to flip that for you to show you. So that is actually the light in the back of the car. Let's talk about the light. So I think this is really interesting because this is all centered down here on my right hand side, and it's actually tucked away. So when I turn it once, you've got your side light, and of course full light there. But when we turn it to the left, we get something completely different. We get a parking light. And then there was this little dial that actually alters how your headlights are. And the reason you would do that is because if you've got a lot of people in the back, or you've got a lot of luggage and your back end is weighted, you can end up dazzling other drivers. So by being able to adjust that, it means that that headlight adjustment always means that your headlights are where you want them to be on the road. Now, the other thing I want to show you is the sunroof. I think that sunroof is fantastic. I mean, not only can you tilt it, you can pull it all the way back, and the light is amazing. So up here we've just got our lights. So sorry, the camera might go a bit funny as we show you this. You've got reading light, and then you've got your full as well, so that comes on when you've got your doors open. That's your sunroof button, of course. And I just wanted to show you this. So this actually lights up when you open the doors. So this has been a bit of a whistle stop tour inside the car. For me, it's already won me over in terms of, I think the colouring is excellent. It feels quite fun. Now, I've been quite won over by all the gadgetry and all the extra bits and pieces that seem to have been so thoughtfully woven into the design and engineering of this car. But for me, it's not just about that, it's about what it's like to drive as well. So I'm going to show you this gearbox before we head off. I've been informed that first gear can be a little bit tight, but I'm used to driving a 50-year-old car. I don't think it's going to be anything to worry about. So let's go into gear. So we're just checking that we're in neutral there, and we come up into first, down into second, and across into third, down into fourth, and all the way across up into fifth, and then all the way down and into reverse. Seems okay. Let's go and start this car up, hear what she sounds like, and take her out for a cheeky spin. It's high time to start the car up and hear what she sounds like. So of course we'll do a shot under the bonnet, and we'll do a shot from the back as well. So we've just got to make sure the key is in the firm off position over here, and we turn it, check we're neutral, and we'll get it started up. And I'll go quiet so you can hear what she sounds like. So I wanted to let you know what this Mercedes sounded like from the word go. So we're in first gear. I'm going to shut up now so you can hear what these gears sound like. Because everything is well insulated, because of course this wasn't a cheap car to buy. Now when I was doing this video, it was the small details that stuck out for me, and one of the most interesting things that I was told by Lee when we were talking through the car before we did the video was all about the fuel injection. So the fuel injection on the car is, or was at the time, boasted to be the very best in the market, and they boasted it was one of the most economical cars in the market. But of course times have moved on, so you wouldn't expect the fuel MPG of then, which was when this car came out in the early 80s, for it to be the same now. And Lee, I've watched Lee drive. He certainly drives like a rally driver who didn't quite find his place in the Formula 1 team. He still manages to get an impressive low 30s MPG out of the car. And as we take it round today, we've actually been achieving a pretty good MPG ourselves. Now, one of the worst bits about living in West Yorkshire is that most of the roads are absolutely littered with speed cameras, and it makes it impossible for us to put our foot down. So where we are today, we're actually quite far from the motorway, so we're not able to take this car out and test it to its full advantage. But even going from 0 to 30 to 40, we're feeling like the engine has so much more to give. And the handling is superb, as is the visibility, because we've got that lovely big wide screen there, and even so these pillars here are not impacting too much of the view. The only thing is those headrests. So I'm going to talk to you about the fuel injection system. At the time, Mercedes said this is the best, it'll give you the most economical car, you will love it, and it still holds up pretty well today actually. And I think the only thing that really lets it down for me is that, and this is so petty, and I'm sorry if this seems like I'm nitpicking, but the window winders are manual. Why am I doing it myself when there's so many other electrical gubbins on the car? Surely they could have extended through to putting some electric windows into the doors. Now you've probably noticed as we look around the car that there are a few little rust scabs, the fuel tank sender doesn't work, the heater motor's noisy, listen. But for £200, I don't think it's a bad choice. And I had a quick look through eBay, and I'm pleased to report there are plenty others like this special little car for less than £1,000. So why aren't people buying them? I think number one, it's probably not the first choice that people think of. People tend to go for, you know, the creme de la creme, the most sporty thing they can think of. But you know what? You can have an awful lot of fun in this car for very little money whatsoever. In fact, this has probably been one of the biggest surprises that I've taken out on test, because I turned up today with zero expectations, but a slight niggle in the back of my mind. I thought it might be a little bit boring. I thought, there's a posh car, I imagine it would be quite nice inside, but I was worried that it was going to be a little bit dull on the test drive. But whilst it lacks some of the craziness of my daily driver, and it isn't quite as zany in the forecourt as you would see from some of the 50s and 60s and 70s stuff that we test, but it does deserve a garage space because it's cheap. It's a classic I think we'll appreciate and value. People always say to me, you know, what would you recommend? Well, I've taken this out today. It costs £200 and it's great. You can still get parts for these cars. They're not the hardest thing to get parts for, and it's a nice car to drive. It keeps up with traffic. There's none of those annoying rattles, and to be honest, when it's parked up, I think it's aged far better than some of the other 90s cars that I've tested. And the gearbox, smooth, lovely. Handling, couldn't ask for more. But it's that nice element of it handles well for an older car, and it holds up against a modern car, but the steering's not frustratingly light like you get with some of these modern power assisted units, and you've got great visibility. So for me, and for the price, And for all these people that reach out to me and say, I want a classic, but I don't know where to start, why don't you have a look at Mercedes 190E? Because I am so very impressed, and I didn't expect to be. And you know what? I think you will be too. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video today. It's been an absolute pleasure to show you, and to be honest, it's put a smile on my face. Now until next time, take care and drive safely.